Welcome to the Making Hay podcast with Marcia Miller from RFG Advisory. In this podcast, we help veterinarians, from new graduates to seasoned practitioners, navigate the sometimes tricky waters of personal finance. We all know the saying, making hay while the sun shines. As cheesy as it sounds, it represents a lot of what we help people do in their financial lives and businesses. We know each of you faces unique challenges, and we're here to offer advice tailored just for you, anchored in service, stewardship, and a genuine understanding of your profession. Join Marcia Miller, your guide on this journey. Marcia has spent over 25 years in financial services, and her passion is helping vets like you get a handle on your finances. Tune into each episode as we meet at the intersection of veterinary practice and financial management. With help from expert guests and insights from Marcia's own experience, we're going to tackle your biggest financial questions head on.
And welcome to the Making Hay podcast with your host, Marcia Miller. Marcia, great to be back with you again. This is our second podcast together. Last time we learned a little bit about you. This time, I think we're going to focus a little more on your practice, get a little bit deeper with that. It's nice to see you again.
Yeah. Hey, Bill. Nice to see you.
So last time around, we introduced you to your listeners.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go a little bit deeper with your business and talk more about we got into this some the last time around, but talk about the focus of your business, if you would. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So just a reminder of the focus of my business is we work with veterinarians. So we work with all phases of veterinarians. So if they're just getting out of vet school and they have no clue about what to do financial, they don't know what to do with their student loan debt or even what kind of practice they're going to be in or starting or so forth, we work with them. We also work with veterinarians that are in the middle of their practice, whether they own a practice or they're an associate or even a corporate employee. And then all the way to a veterinarian who's looking to sell his business, who's starting to think about an exit strategy. Does he sell to his associate advisor? Does he sell to corporate, which is a big booming thing right now? Or does he, what options are there and how much money do they need to get out of their practice to even be able to retire? So we help put all those pieces of the puzzle together. And then we work with veterinarians who have already done all of that. And they're now in full retirement and they're just living the good life. So literally every phase of retirement, we just speak veterinarian and we work with veterinarians. So
that is great. So, but why? Why did you choose to focus on this area?
Yeah, I really feel like they're underserved, and they're just wonderful, kind people that we enjoy working with. I like to think that I'm just a real person who likes to work with real people, and they're real people. They're just authentic and kind. I think anyone who loves animals has, just this kindness about them. And so we just enjoyed working with them. And then after, getting several clients, we started seeing a pattern of needs that veterinarians had, and we were able to solve those problems and give them ideas. And so it just kind of has evolved, and that is our focus.
I'd be hard pressed to name a veterinarian that I've met that I didn't like, to be really honest with you.
Yeah, same. It's just good people.
They really are. So how do you acquire new clients? Is this word of mouth?
Well, we spend a lot of time going to veterinary conferences. Matter of fact, we're headed to Alpharetta, Georgia, the end of next week for Vet South. So we'll be there, have a booth, have a cocktail hour where we can meet more veterinarians and just mingle with them, spend time with them. And then we also get a lot of referrals. So from physicians that we're helping currently, they pass our name along, which we're super grateful for. And then we host educational events from time to time. So we meet people there and through their associations, we're just kind of have feelers out everywhere in this industry. And so that's the main ways we meet them.
Yeah, no, that's actually interesting. So just as an aside, you don't limit your client base, I guess, just to, I know you're based out of Alabama. Do you limit your talent base to client base to Alabama or?
No, not at all. That's a great question. We're actually licensed in all 50 states, which I think makes us a little bit different because a lot of firms are only in, a handful of states, maybe the southern region or, things like that. So that we're headed out west in this beginning of the year in February. We're headed out to Vegas for a huge conference there, and, we'll touch veterinarians all in that area. So of course they come from all over the United States to these big conferences. So we are not limited. We can, as long as someone has a computer, can get in front of their computer, or when we're in their area, want to visit with us in person. We're not limited by any geographical area in the United States.
Oh, that's fantastic. And that goes into, my next question. What's unique and different? You've touched on something that's different already.
Yeah. And I think too, just the specialization in general, makes us special. And, as you know, I own my practice. So I'm a female owned business. I've been a small business owner for 25, 26 years. And I think that's special too, especially given the demographics in the veterinary space now. There's 80% of veterinarians are female, 80.
80?
So 80. Yeah, it's really a large number. And I know a lot of veterinarians coming out of school are female too. So we love working with our male clients, and we love working with our female clients, but that's another thing that makes us a little bit different. And then, we create holistic plans for veterinarians that are based off of the concerns that we see them talking about repeatedly. And they're busy taking care of animals, running a practice, raising children and doing all these things. The last thing in the world they need to have to worry about is, where do I put money? I've maxed out my 401k. Where do I put additional money, or where do I put my emergency fund for my practice? Because I need to know I've got 6 months or at least or so if everything fell apart, that I could pay my staff. They've got a lot on their plate, a lot to be worried about. So investments and retirement and estate planning and income planning and all those things that are in our wheelhouse, we don't want them worrying about it. We want them focusing on what they do. And especially one of the biggest problems of veterinary medicine right now is burnout, because they don't get a lot of time off. They're constantly, in demand. A lot of clinics being open even 7 days a week. And even with some relief veterinarians there to help them, burnout's a big deal. We don't want them burning out and having to figure out their money as well.
No, it sounds like you're saying in a lot of ways, veterinarians are like the rest of us. we definitely could benefit.
Isn't that the truth?
From a financial advisor helping us along here.
Yeah. And I do have, just me personally, a lot of financial advisors work for another firm their whole career, and there's nothing wrong with that. But as a business owner myself, I see parallels all the time, and the struggles that I have and I've had through my career, whether it's staffing or, or what, just managing and running the business. That's a whole different set of concerns in addition to being a financial advisor. So it's the same thing for veterinarians. They have a set of issues if they are practice owners that are unique from just a veterinarian that's working as an associate or in another path.
It's interesting. You mentioned that you deal with issues that veterinarians deal with. And it just raised a question on my mind. What are some of the unique issues that veterinary practices and the vets themselves have to deal with? It's different from, say, somebody, doing some kind of different work.
Yeah, I think it's, there's pros and cons. Like, they don't have the issue that regular human physicians have, that they have to worry about insurance. I don't even know how many staff members is needed just to file the claims. But I think that, for a human physician, but I think for a veterinarian, that's an advantage and disadvantage, because they don't have payment methods. Sometimes they have to work with people on even paying for things. They've got a sick animal that they don't want to send away, a sick animal home just because the person, the client doesn't have money to pay for that. So that's a concern. They have, a lot of outstanding accounts receivable. And again, like I mentioned, staffing is a big problem right now. There's a staffing shortage pretty much in every industry right now. Those are issues. And then I think the biggest issue is just not getting the financial education in school, which is, a tragedy for every profession, unless you're going into finance. People, they get trained how to be a physician, but yet they don't know how to manage money. And so they have to learn it the hard way. And so that can sometimes be challenging. And we're here to solve that. Like I said, we have a passion for even working with the ones straight out of school that don't have money. All they have is debt. They're the opposite of what the financial planning book tells us is a great client. but we are concerned about the industry. And so that is something that we're pretty passionate about in this office.
Yeah, you mentioned account receivables, and I come from a family of farmers. They're not now, but and I've known a lot of farmers over the years, and I know that, cash flow is a difficult thing to come by, and you do have to work with your providers, in this case, the veterinarians who are taking care of large animals for you, maybe, or something. So yeah, it's interesting.
Right.
Actually.
Yeah.
What can clients expect when they're working with you? Just sort of walk us through. Veterinary Bill walks into your office and sits down. What would that meeting look like?
The very first meeting we have is we just call it a get to know you meeting. It's very simple, because we don't want you to come into our office at the very first meeting and bring anything. We don't want you bringing statements or snapshots or spreadsheets or anything like that. We want you to come into a safe place to ask questions. And all questions are important. There's no unimportant questions. Sometimes people are very intimidated because they don't know the questions to ask.
Right.
And so we just like to have a sit down and, we're very down to earth. My team is down to earth, and we try to make people comfortable. We want people to feel heard and that we are, listening to them, and just have a conversation about what they're doing currently, what their experience is financially, and what their goals are. Forget how you get there. What would you like to see happen in your life?
Yeah.
And then that's our job, is to create the plan to get there. So if that first meeting goes well and they want to get back together, then, but we go to the second meeting. But again, that first meeting is just basically getting to know you. So you leave feeling like, hey, I know these people. These are people I like, or maybe they don't like us, and we've solved that with one meeting.
I can't imagine that would ever possibly happen because you're enormously likable. But it actually is a serious question. What if somebody comes in and sits down, and how important is it that you feel a fit or a trust when they in that first meeting?
Yeah, it's super important. And going back to veterinarians, you asked me earlier, why veterinarians, and besides we think they're kind, wonderful, humble people. We feel like they're overlooked in this space. Like, most people are going after human physicians.
Yeah.
And we feel like they're overlooked. But in my experience, veterinarians, they don't mind asking for help, and they don't mind telling you what they don't know. And it just goes back to they're just real. And that's why we love working with them. But it's very important to answer your question, that we feel a connection, that we like each other. We feel like we could work together, on both sides. It's kind of an interview, I guess you could say, for both of us.
Mm-hmm.
If we felt like it wasn't a good fit, you're obviously not going to want to share everything with a person that you don't feel a connection with. So we just feel it's important to spend, maybe a 30-minute meeting, whether it's in office, via Zoom or whatever, a 30-minute meeting just to be able to ask questions. Then if they're comfortable and want to move forward, then we give them instructions on how to do that.
Yeah.
And we get down to, a lot more in the second meeting, which we call our triage meeting. So
triage.
We do. So just like a doctor, is going to go in hard at a triage meeting to try to figure out what's wrong. A lot takes place in this meeting for us too, because we are going in and we do ask them to bring back all their statements, any current financial investments they have, insurance investments, life insurance, long-term care if they have it, even tax returns. All that stuff we'll eventually need so that we can put a proper plan together.
Yeah.
And then, we will look it all over in this meeting. We want to know about debt, all those good things. And then we want to know what retirement looks like for them, what they envision it looking like. And, are they willing to save? Do a little risk assessment so that we can determine what kind of risk they could accept, that they would be willing to go along with. And some people, they are more conservative and they want money put in safe places. So we do have risk managed accounts that we are very appropriate for part of the money.
So you're not a one size solution fits all clients kind of person.
We're not. We create all the plans unique from, beginning to end, and they're unique to that person. So, and there may need to be different, we call them buckets of money. It's like maybe they need a short-term cash reserve because maybe they want to start a business. Maybe they want to start a practice. and they're saving money up for that. So maybe we don't want to put that in an investment that has a whole lot of risk because they've got a 2-year plan or a 3-year plan where they're going to be buying a business. And so we treat that money a little bit different. So it's very unique to the person, and we make sure they're comfortable. But yeah, we do in that triage meeting make sure that we're going in hard to see what's going on here. We want to know what's going on, and we want to see what you have currently or what you need to have.
And I can't help but think that it must be really different. And I'd love to hear what the difference might be between the veterinarian coming in who's just come out of school, maybe been out a couple of years, versus a veterinarian who comes in and has been practicing for a number of years, but maybe, 20 years. I would imagine there's different reactions and different kinds of responses to your triage meeting.
Oh, yeah. And sometimes that triage meeting is pretty short. If they're new right out of school and they really have no assets, one of the biggest things I'm going to tell that person is, you've been in school, you've had no money, and you probably have debt. I think the average is, or close to $200,000 coming out of vet school, 170 or so. And now all of a sudden you get a job making a pretty decent amount of money. And so we really want to coach them on budgeting, you need to set up a budget, and you need to make sure you have an emergency fund. And then we talk about, we educate them on what is an IRA, what is the difference in a traditional IRA and a Roth IRA. So we do a lot of education for those types of clients.
Yeah.
And give them homework, things to read. And if they have time or at least when we're having meetings with them, we explain the difference. Again, a good example is a Roth IRA compared to a traditional IRA. A Roth, you pay tax on the money you put in, but then your seed and harvest is tax-free when you pull it out later in retirement, versus a traditional 401k or IRA. You get a tax break for it. So you don't pay any tax on your seed, but then your whole harvest is taxable. And that can be a nightmare. And so, that's kind of a meeting with a young vet. And then, to your question there about a 20-year-old practicing 20 years or whatever vet down the road. Hopefully they've got some assets saved. They're hopefully have a 401k for their business. If they're, have a practice, or if they're an associate, hopefully the practice they're working in has a 401k. That's going to be the number one thing we start talking about is, are you funding your 401k? How much are you putting in? And what are your options in that 401k? So we want to make sure people are, doing that. And then we start talking about all the different moving parts of the money that they have saved. And then we get them to thinking, we want to talk about required minimum distribution. Most people have no clue, younger people, what that even means, but the government forces you to take money out of your retirement plan. And so we'll start talking to that age about those types of things so that we can set up what that looks like. And then another interesting thing if someone comes in who has a practice and said they've been in their practice 10, 15, 20 years, we find sometimes that veterinarians are making, I don't want to say a mistake, but I think this is common with business owners in general, is that we work so hard on owning a practice, owning our own business, and keeping all the balls in the air, at all the time, and paying our staff, paying ourselves, trying to take a vacation, all those things, paying taxes, paying payroll taxes, health insurance for our employees, that sometimes we think, well, I'm building this empire, and sometimes it is an empire, but they put all their eggs in the basket of selling the practice to be able to meet that retirement goal.
Okay.
And we want to empower our physicians to do a little bit of a different thought of that. And sometimes that works out. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes they sell it and it's golden and it's,
and it's a beautiful thing and it's a happy ending. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we've seen 10x, 15x multiples on practices in the past. Some of that's coming down. But we don't want to just have that as our only hope. We want to have other things saved and created a plan that's very tax efficient. So yes, different conversations.
Totally different. Yeah. While we're talking about this, clearly you provide personal financial advice and guidance. Do you ever work with veterinarians in their practices? Do you take a look at their business and say, you could be doing these things differently? This might help your practice, and provide that kind of advice?
Yeah, we do. We can actually do a startup 401k. So if we've got a new practice and they get ready to, where they're profitable enough, they want to start the 401k, and they need a 401k in order to be able to keep the staff. It's such a competitive world we live in for employees. And so, like I said earlier, with staff shortages, so we can do that. We can do the startup 401k. And we also work with, whether it's their CPAs and tax attorneys, but a lot of times it's the CPA, to see where there's efficiencies, and we can make recommendations, to make sure they're getting all of their deductions for owning the business, putting everything in the right credit card to make sure it's a business expense. And again, that's more of a CPA type thing, but we work hand in hand with a lot of CPAs that specialize in working with veterinarians also.
That's great. So how do clients reach you if they want to get a hold of you? Like, first of all, well, tell us how they can reach you, because I'm curious. You talk about going out a lot, so I want to hear about the schedule too, but let's start with the basics.
So the easiest way to reach us is by phone. The office phone is 205-795-2013. And I don't mind giving out my cell phone number either. So that's 205-739-1928. Also, an easy way to find our website is meetwithmarcia.com. And Marcia is Marcia. So meetwithmarcia.com. And also follow us on social media. So we're on LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all those things. So follow us. You can get links to this podcast on our social media accounts as well.
That's great. Do you post where you're going to be? You mentioned you were going to be over in Georgia and out west. So that people are interested in thinking, well, maybe I'm going to be at that conference. Maybe I should look for her.
Yeah, we do. Usually I put that on LinkedIn, but while we're at the conference, we usually always do a post and say, hey, come by booth, whatever.
Okay.
And see us, come by our happy hour we're having at such and such time. So so definitely follow us on those social medias. We'd love to connect with anyone at any of the events.
That would be fantastic. Well, great. Notice, listeners, I did not ask her about her team. That's because Marcia and her team are episode 3, where we get to meet the folks that she works with, and who will also be working with you if you choose to develop a business relationship with Marcia. But for now, thank you, Marcia. That brings us to the end of episode 2.
Awesome. Thank you, Bill.
You're welcome. And listeners, thank you for listening. This is only Marcia's second podcast, but it's not too early to subscribe. In fact, that's easy. See the subscribe button there. You can just hit it. And that way you don't have to remember when does Marcia come out with a podcast, because it will be delivered to you directly. Boom. Easy peasy. On behalf of Marcia and everybody in her practice that's making hay, I'm Bill Tucker. Thanks for listening. And remember, don't wait. Please live your best life today.
Thank you for listening to the Making Hay podcast. Click the follow button to be notified when new episodes become available. Visit our website at meetwithmarcia.com or give us a call at 205-795-2013. And don't forget to click the follow button to be notified when new episodes become available. Content here is for illustrative purposes and general information only. It is not legal, tax, or individualized financial advice, nor is it a recommendation to buy, sell, or hold any specific security or engage in any specific trading strategy. Results will vary. Past performance is no indication of future results or success. Market conditions change continuously. This commentary reflects the personal opinions, viewpoints, and analyses of Marcia Miller. It does not necessarily represent those of RFG Advisory, their clients, or their employees. This commentary should not be regarded as a description of advisory services provided by Marcia Miller or RFG Advisory, or performance returns of any client. The views reflected in the commentary are subject to change at any time without notice. Advisory services offered by investment advisory representatives or RFG Advisory LLC, RFG Advisory or RFG, a registered investment advisor. Advisory services are only offered to clients or prospective clients where RFG Advisory and its representatives are properly licensed or exempt from licensure. No advisory services may be rendered by RFG Advisory unless a client agreement is in place.